Is it up?
Perek Aleph,
Mem.
Halacha Yud Ches. Yesterday we learned about the Mizbeach. That Mizbeach has to be dafka from stone, and that it can't have any chips on it, and if an iron touched it, so it's puzzle. And now he's going to the Menorah. In Yud Ches he says as follows: HaMenorah v'keleha v'ashulchan v'kelov. The Menorah and the kelim, there were kelim to the Menorah. The kelim to the Menorah, that's the different things that were used, like little pliers or cups, which they took out the psilas, which they put in the oil. That's the kelim of the Menorah. And v'ashulchan v'kelov. Shulchan v'kelov means the shulchan itself was the table. Then there were the sides that were attached to it with the different pipes and everything on which they placed the lechem upon them. And there was also the bazichim in which they kept the levina together with the lechem upon them. They also put a certain amount of levina on the table. Mizbeach hakataytis. Mizbeach hakataytis is a special mizbeach that stood in the Kodesh, and that was called the Mizbeach Hazov, the golden mizbeach. It was only used for kataytis, except on Yom Kippur, when the Kohen Gadol went into the Kodesh Kadoshim and out of it and took certain bloods that he carried, so that they used that mizbeach also to spritz on it. The chol kli sharis, and all the kli sharis, that means all the kelim that were used in the Beis Hamikdash. Sharis means serving. In order to serve Hashem, they had different kind of kabbonos. Kabbonos that they measured the oil in, kabbonos that they mixed the flour in to make the menachas. All these were kli sharis. Ein eisen elam and amatches bavad. They could only be made of metal, nothing else. V'im asor shel eitz. If they made it from wood, or etzem, or from bone, or even or stone, or sheschuches, or from glass, is pesulim. It has to be dafke from metal. Now, in Yutes, he goes on to say as follows: Hoya hakol ashirim aniyim. If the coal was very poor, so demos oisen oisai afilu shel bedil. They can make it from metal. Huh? V'im heshiru oisen oisai shel zohav. I think when by the Chashmonaim, if I remember correctly, when they came to the Beis Hamikdash and the Beis Hamikdash was Tamei, so they made a temporary menorah over there, and it wasn't from gold yet. Afilu ha-mizrukos. Mizrukos is the forks. Vashpudim, there's certain spears which they held the meat on it. V'amagrefes, and the shovels that they had to clean off the coal from the ash from the mizbeach. Shel mizbeach ha'oila, from the mizbeach ha'oila, what they need over there. V'hamidas. Hamidas is the measuring kelim. There were different kelim in the Beis Mikdash, Moshe by the yayin, by the nesachim of yayin. So there was different sizes of the nesachim. So they had special measuring cups that they poured the wine in it. Also by the silos, by the mincha that they made the cup mincha. Mizrakas is beckons. Yeah, they took the blood in that. When they shechted an animal, so under the neck of the animal they would put a cup, and there was, like we say in Seder Korban Pesach, that there was a whole line of Kohanim that they would pass. They had a whole bunch of cups that they would pass the cup along to the Mizbeach. It's all these things. Im yesh koyach b'tzibur, oisen oisen shel zov. If the tzibur could afford it, so then they made it of gold. Afilu sharei ha'azara, mitzachapen oisen zohav, im motzo yodom. In other words, the Azara was already in the front. It's not really so much of the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash, as we mentioned many times, was the Heichel. The Heichel was the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Kodesh, and the Ulam. That's the holiest part. The Azara's, the front parts, which was more open. And over there he said, so still the walls, if they were able to afford it, they would cover them with gold. Ein oisen kol hakelim mitchilosam elu l'shem hakodesh. In other words, a keli that's used in the Beis HaMikdash had to be made specifically for the use of the Beis HaMikdash. V'im nasu mitchilosam lehedyet, ein oisen legvaya. If they were made not for the Beit, they were made for someone the public to use. So, and you needed a keli, so you can't take these keli because it doesn't have the cheshivas that goes with the Beis HaMikdash. Okay. What? And there's legvaya. Uklei gavaya, ad shalei nishtamish behem gavaya, rashay nishtamish behem hedyet. Umish nishtamish behem gavaya, asurim lehedyet. In other words, that the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash, even though they were made for the Beis HaMikdash, that's a shayla in the Gemara, what the Gemara calls the Lashon Hazmona Milsa or Hazmona Lav Milsa. Hazmona Milsa means that the fact that it was prepared for this purpose has already become Kaddish. So we paskin that by the Klei Shoros, how do they become Kaddish? By their using them. Through the Tashmish, by them being used, they become Kaddish. But before that, even though they were prepared for the Mikdash, but that doesn't make it yet holy. So if it was prepared for the Mikdash, and they took one and they used it for a private purpose, that's not Me'ilah, that's not a Moel Behegdish. The same, now he also says another thing. Avonim v'koides shechotzvam mitchil l'beis hakneses ein boinen oisa l'harabayis. If you had stones, avonim are stones, the koides are beams. Shechotzvam mitchil l'beis hakneses, when they went to the fields and they chopped down the trees. and they shaped, like they make lumber. So when they shaped the lumber, and they made it for beams, but they made it for beams to be used for basic nesses, so you can use it for the harabayas. It means that shows you a certain, even though it was made for basic nesses, and a basic nesses is also a holy place, but still it's not the same kedusha as the Beis Hamikdash, and b'meila, so it's not you're not allowed to. It's not interchangeable. You can't use it for the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, we'll start now. Perek Sheni. In Perek Sheni, he's going to go into detail about the Mizbeach. And when we learned the beginning of Perek Rishon, so I explained that the Rambam goes with Shitosei. There is a question, what was the purpose of building the Beis Hamikdash? The Rambam holds, the way we learned right away in the first halacha, the Rambam says, Mitzvahs Esa, La says, Bayis Hashem, Muchen Lias Makriven by Kabbonos. That the whole purpose of the making of the Beis Hamikdash was for Kabbonos. The Ramban says that the whole purpose of making the Beis Hamikdash was because the Eibishter wanted a dira b'tachtonim. V'osli migdash shechanti b'seicham. I needed a place where to rest, where to move in, so to say. So that was the purpose. So according to the Rambam, the whole purpose of the Beis Hamikdash was for Kabbonos. Kabbonos, the most important thing for Kabbonos is the Mizbeach. That's where you mark with the Kabbonos. So that's why, after the introduction about building the Beis Hamikdash, the Rambam begins to talk about the dinam of the Mizbeach. L'shitosai, because this is the Ikka, what the Mizbeach, what the Beis Hamikdash was made for. So he says as follows: HaMizbeach Mekoymai Mechuven b'Yosef. In other words, the place of the Mizbeach is precise. It's exact. It's not that you can move it around for whatever convenience you want, but there is a place exactly where the Beis Hamikdash has to stand. And you never could change it, the place where the Beis Hamikdash is, where the Beis Hamikdash is supposed to be standing. Shenema, Zeh Mizbach Ha'oila L'Yisrael, Ubemikdash Nekad Yitzchak Avinu. Now over here you notice by the word Ubemikdash, there's a star, an asterisk, and the asterisk refers you to the bottom, and it says, "Nirali shetzarach lehem b'makom hamizbeach." Not the Migdash, not the whole bias, but in the place where the Mizbeach is mechuven, exactly on that place was by Avram Shteit, when he saw the place by even Avram built the Mizbeach. He built it exactly on the place where the Mizbeach is supposed to be in years later. So he says, Mizbeach, Mizbeach Nekad Yitzchak Avinu. By that where Avram was tied and placed on something on the Mizbeach, that's exactly the place where the Mizbeach is, where the Mokum Mizbeach. Shenema, the Eibush said to Avram, we say it in davening every day, Kach nas bintcha v'lechacha el eretz HaMoriah, and V'aleah Shom Leila, and then a shet of Bereda v'yiv Shem Avram as a Mizbeach. Avram built a Mizbeach. V'nema b'divrei hayomim, in Divrei Hayomim, when it talks about the bias that Shlomo Melech built, the first and original Beis HaMikdash, steht Vayichal Shlomo Livnos as Beis Hashem b'Yerushalayim b'Har Moriah, asher nira leDavid aviv, asher heichen b'mokim David begoinen Arnon HaYevusi. That means over there, when David gets credit for the building of the Beis HaMikdash. But the truth is, even though David gets credit for the Beis HaMikdash, but the Eibush said to Shlomo, you're not going to build the Beis HaMikdash, because he was a warrior.
David, not Shlomo.
David was a warrior, and B'mela, so his hands were bloody, so to say. So the Eibush said, you're not going to build, but Shlomo is going to build. But David, they needed the place where the Beis HaMikdash. How did they get the place? So there was a person called Arnon HaYevusi, and he owned that area, that piece of land for the Beis HaMikdash. So David was the one that negotiated with him and collected money from all of Yisrael. Every Shevet gave a certain amount of money, and they bought the place. And B'mela, so he's saying over here that Vayichal Shlomo Livnos is Beis Hashem b'Yerushalayim b'Har Moriah, asher nira leDavid, the place which was told to David that that's the place of the Beis HaMikdash. U'Mesaidas b'Yad HaKol. It's a thing that we have been Mesaida. In other words, it was passed along from generation to generation. That what Shehamokim Shabona by David u'Shlomo. See, he says David u'Shlomo, even though Shlomo was the one who built, and David was the one who funded it and got it. So he gives the credit to the two of them. So he says, the Hamokim Shabona David u'Shlomo HaMizbeach Begaiden Aravno Hu Hamokim She Bona by Avraham HaMizbeach V'okat Olav Yitzchak. That's the exact place where Avraham made the Mizbeach and he tied Yitzchak on it. V'hu Hamokim Shebona by Noach Kishyotza Ma'ateva. When Noach came out of Teva, state that Noach, when he went into the Teva, so he was told to take a number of animals, and he was told that from every animal should take Shnaim Bo El Noach, and for the Behema at the Hoira, he took Shiva. Why did he take Shiva? In order to have Kabbonis to be Makkah when he comes out of the Mizbeach. So he says that Noach, the Makkah over there, Uhu HaMizbeach Shehikavo Kayin V'Hevel, the first one to make a Korban Hashem. It wasn't necessarily from what do you call Behema, but Kayin and Hevel, each one made a Korban. He brought Mebchaydes Kana Tzayne, he brought from his produce, and Shaitan Vayifa El Kim El Hevel V'Kayim Vel Mechosoi V'Shor Uboy Hikav Adam Arishan B'Yem Shenivra. Adam Arishan was created on Friday, on Erev Shabbos. So on Erev Shabbos, Adam Arishan was Makriv a Korban. Umishom Nivra, that was a place where he was created. Now, state that the Eibishter took earth and he formed the earth into Adam. So it was from that earth of that place. Omer Chachamim, the Chachamim said, Adam mimokim kaparosei nivra. Where is a person forgiven? What does mimokim kaparosei? So that goes on the Mizbeach. When you want to get a kapara, so you use the Mizbeach. So in Mokum Kaparosai, that's where he was nivra. It could also be that Mokum Kaparosai nivra means that state that offer atav el offer toshuv. So that's the kapara for Adam. So it was the same. In other words, he came from the offer and he came back to the offer. I explained already last time.
That right connection over here.
What was that?
According to the second explanation, in Kaparato Nivra, because he's buried in the fire, it doesn't have to do with Beis HaMikdash.
But that was the mokum where he had his kapara. When he brought a korban with it after 130 years, he brought a korban. So, but I explained last time that the Rebbe explained that why is this halachas that we're learning now, why is it called Hilchos Beis HaBechira? Why do we call it Hilchos Beis HaMikdash? That fits more, because we're talking about the Beis HaMikdash. And the Rebbe explains that the Rambam wants to dispel a certain machshava that people may have. People may think that, why is this place special? It's special because being that Adam used it, and being that Noach used it, and being that Cain and Hevel used it, and being that Avraham used it, that made it special. But maybe so the Eibusher should pick that place. So kommt is that the credit for all the Eibusher wanted to give them credit for picking a good place. So he didn't go look for another place if there's already a place that they selected. So the Rebbe says, no, that's not the pshat. The pshat is that why did Adam or all these others mark over there? Because the Eibusher picked this place. In other, they knew b'nevuah that this is the place that the Eibusher picked. And therefore they use this place for their kabbonos. So, because it is Beis HaBechira, the Eibusher picked this place, that's why in this place we made the Beis HaMikdash.
Bechira of the Kadosh Baruch Hu.
That's right. Okay, we shall stop over here now and continue Mitzvah tomorrow. Okay.